mean, yeah, it wasn't like your little one anything.
How's Melissa? welcome to this celebration of worship. How good it is to come together and worship the Lord. A few announcements as we begin. We had last Sunday was July 3rd, and this place was just chock full of people, and a lot of them were doing the same thing you're doing, which is waving on our fans. Special thanks.
400 of these studies went out.
Yes, and it went out fast, and tons of free water. So thanks to Tanya, Nicole, the Caldwells, the Coons, David and Alicia, Jonathan Bartlett. Who am I missing? For coming and helping with that.
Yourself?
Oh yeah, I was here too. It was a wonderful, if hot evening. Folks said thank you so many times for free water, which was just a wonderful thing, and the fans. So we were walking around, and I would see folks that I knew having a fan. I'm like, where'd you get that? Like, somebody handed it to me. I don't know. So it was a great event. One of the things that's exciting about being in this facility is being able to do something like that. So the next big one is the first weekend in October, and we'll be figuring out ways to interact with the community then as well. There is a potluck supper on right after church on July 31st to celebrate Jason, who has been here 10 years. So plan on coming to that, bringing some food to share. We will bring a cake, so you don't need to worry about bringing dessert, but bring some other food, and we will have to stick around afterwards and celebrate Jason and his time with us. Next week, I'm out of town, but Jacob Healings will be preaching again, and we're very excited about that. Thank you, Jacob. The person who was going to cover canceled on me last week, and I'm like, so Jacob's like, I can do that. So thanks for coming. Are there other announcements? I think I'm missing some stuff. Yeah, we've been doing Faithful Ones. This month, all the money goes to Neighborhood Cooperative Ministries, formerly known as Norcross Co-op. So thank you for being here, enabling us to give money to that. If you're watching online, let us know your name, and we'll make sure that you're watching right now, and we'll make sure.
Yum.
Yeah, keep Joseph and the Crimes in your prayer. Their dog Yum that you put to sleep. Many of you who have come to the pumpkin patch have known Yum. They had to put Yum to sleep on Friday, so keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Yeah.
Did you mention Theology Tavern already?
Theology Tavern is tomorrow night. Come out and join us at the Growler store where it will be air conditioned. And that's all you need to know. For go anywhere nowadays. If it's air conditioned, you should be there. Right. You're welcome to bring some fans, but there will be air conditioning there. So come join us tomorrow night at 6:30. You're welcome to bring food if you want, or come have another eat. What we'll do here tomorrow. Anything else? You may have noticed we don't have bulletins today. Jason is getting back from a cruise through Alaska, and we talked and joked about maybe we could probably do this without bulletins. So this is the test case. I know that we all like our security blankets to hold them. This week, we're going to see if we can still worship without them. Hint, I believe in you. I think you can do it. Let us, the peace of Christ be with you.
And also with you.
Let us stand and share the peace of Christ with one another.
He's great.
Actually, that was really good. Yum Yum was when I first started working there. Yum Yum was there. And then it transitioned to Little Joe. Little Joe would stand next to me all the time. So I didn't have to worry about, okay, the other You okay with hugs?
The announcement about yoga this Tuesday. Apparently, there's also chair yoga. I didn't know these were folding chairs. But, apparently,
I just also like to say I opened up for yoga on Tuesday for fall, and no one in that class was to church. So we have reached a community just for yoga. So it's happening. It's happening.
the call to worship is next and is printed on the screen. Please join me. We gather here today as a family.
As children of the living God.
We know that we aren't the only children of the living God.
And we rejoice knowing that people all over the world are just like us in the fact that they too are loved by God.
We are surrounded by the divine.
So we open our eyes and we worship.
The hymn is number 31. All who are able are invited to stand as we sing. helps you as we move into a time of meditation. For me, meditation is most helpful not when I try to block everything out, when I try to make everything, block everything out. There it is, this room. Or when I try to keep everything away, but more helpful when I let things pass through, sounds, the feelings, just let them pass through and be aware of them, helping them, using them to help me be present in the present moment. Loves and some mercy to surround you today and everyone. Hallelujah. Amen.
Thank
Therefore, stand firm and don't submit to the bondage of slavery again. You were called to freedom, you brothers and sisters. Only don't let this freedom be an opportunity to indulge your selfish impulses, but serve each other through love. And all the law has been fulfilled in a single statement: love your neighbor as yourself. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's not raining.
Yay!
Something's wrong.
No.
It's human enough to feel like it's raining.
I'm reading this morning from James 1, verses 19 through 25. Know this, my dear brothers and sisters. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to grow angry. This is because an angry person doesn't produce God's righteousness. Therefore, with humility, set aside all moral filth and the growth of wickedness, and welcome the word planted deep inside you, the very word that is able to save you. You must be doers of the word, and not only hearers who mislead themselves. Those who hear but don't do the word are like those who look at their faces in a mirror. They look at themselves, walk away, and immediately forget what they were like. But there are those who study the perfect law, the law of freedom, and continue to do it. They don't listen and then forget, but they put it into practice in their lives. They will be blessed in whatever they do. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
I'm going to start this sermon in a couple of minutes with something that I hope will help you feel comfortable, because the rest of this sermon is going to be uncomfortable for a lot of us. Not just to preach. I'm aware that you all are going to share in the uncomfort. I'm sorry about that. But not just to listen to, so please be aware that I share your lack of comfort. This sermon is hard because I'm a pastor. And that means the thing I deal with the most, the thing I consider to be my biggest strength, the thing I spend time working on more than anything else, is words. My thing is words. And ever since the Dobbs decision a little more than 2 weeks ago, I'm at a complete loss. I know that some people are celebrating and others are simultaneously deeply mourning. And many people I love are a combination of angry and scared. And because I'm a male, shocker, I don't know what to say or how to say it. My job is words, and for the last 2 weeks, I've had a complete loss of it. The thing I promise that will hopefully provide a little bit of comfort is that I'm not going to spend this time telling you that you need to be pro-life or pro-choice today. There are ways to find good reasons, biblically based reasons, to be either of those. Any prolonged reading of the Bible shows that it does not speak with one voice, and certainly not on issues, especially issues that we would like to relate to our current life. So you can say the Bible is pro-choice, but the only answer to that would include a fair reading of the Bible would have to include something like, yes, the Bible is pro-choice, but that's not the whole story. The Bible also includes spots where you could argue that every fetus is known and cared for by the Creator and all life is valid. Or you could say the Bible is pro-life. The only answer that includes a fair reading to the Bible would have to include something like yes. But that is not the whole story. The Bible also includes spots where it gives instructions to perform abortion, includes and acknowledges the pain that goes along with abortion. And the Bible includes spots where you can argue it gives conditions and understands the need and even mandates abortion. Because both those sides are true. The Bible absolutely does speak on abortion, but it does not give only one answer or only one voice. To say otherwise is either biblical illiteracy or biblical heresy. Remember when I talked about the uncomfortable part? So without the ability to go to the Bible and get one and only one definitive answer, we are left trying to debate and discuss the moral, ethical, spiritual, and religious aspects of abortion, what we should aim for, what we should say, how we should try to organize our society to be the most fair. I know already I've lost something, because you're already swimming in your head, thinking about all the arguments you live by and consider important. If I promise that I'll give every single person here a chance to speak before this sermon is done, will you please listen to me just a little bit longer? There'll be a chance for everyone here to say their piece, and even those of you who are online, if you're watching now and you type in a comment, Joseph will make sure to read it. So when it's time, we'll pass the microphones, and Joseph will speak up for those of you in computer. Anyone who has listened to me for any time knows I'm big on life. Not just the life of the people we know and love, not just the people we like, or whose ideas we like, but people we don't know at all, people we know and dislike, people whose ideas and ideals we loathe. I do believe that God cares for everyone. And that makes this even harder because it means that God cares for everyone who has radically differing opinions on every issue, including this one. So I can't tell you the biblical slant because the Bible doesn't speak with only one voice, but I did major in philosophy in college with a fair amount of religious study. I think and I hope I can lead us in a healthy discussion about ethics, spirituality, and morals. If the argument is about sanctity of life, then unless that comes with complete fullness, unless life is more than just being born, unless life is full dignity, including the right to do with one's body what one wants, then that argument has broken down while it's still fresh, while the words are still in the air. Being pro-life means a commitment until that life ends, even if that life is on prison, on death row. If you're going to say that life matters, then care of life, non-cruelty toward life, all of that had better matter. I do think that one of the dangers is that most people, probably nearly all people, think of their situation and they think that's how it is for everyone. For pretty much everyone. Most of us in this room are middle class. I haven't seen your bank statements, but I'm just guessing. Which means it's hard for us to imagine what it would look like to consider a child as a financial issue. I mean, I've got one in college and a stepchild in college and one who's about a year away. So I know that children cost money. I'm not saying I don't know that. While my finances have certainly been affected by having kids, it for me has never meant the difference between eating or not, or getting medications or not. That isn't the case for me. And any argument about public policy has to take into account the fact that we all are living different lives with different situations. It's not everybody is living just like me. So I promised I'd let you talk. I've given you a chance to think about what you want to say. I'm going to simply ask that people be respectful, and I'll work on keeping us to that if I need to. guessing that someone or many of you have already gotten things that you're begging to say. So who's going first? Yeah. You want microphone?
I wanted to share a story with you. If I can take you back 40 plus years. 40 plus years. Way back. We already had 2 grown children, basically, 17 and 18. And lo and behold, here I am, pregnant again, at 40. The doctor knew enough about the possibility of a problem at that age. So he sent me to Emory to get an ultrasound. That was back in the dark ages, before it was just a normal part of being pregnant. This was a big deal. I was about 4 months pregnant. That makes a fetus 16 weeks old. When they did the ultrasound, we could watch it on the screen. And you know, when they introduced the needle into the amniotic sac to extract some of the fluid, that little fetus, who was Joseph, put his little hand out and backed away. That was a living baby at that point. He knew we were after him, and he was having none of it. Okay, the tests came back. They knew there was something not normal, but they didn't know what. The only thing they could test for back then was either, what was it? Yeah, Down syndrome, and there was spina bifida. But they didn't know anything else. They just knew it wasn't right. And the doctor assumed I would have an abortion. And I said, why would you think that? Well, you're 40, you have kids almost out of the house. That was a good enough reason, and there was a defect growing inside me. And then he said, well, if I had known you wouldn't even consider abortion, we never would have had the test done. What? But just to have that picture of Joseph refusing to be invaded like that. And God knows you gave us a challenge. I'm not saying you didn't.
I'm not denying that.
But I'm one that feels very much like this is my body. Don't you dare. Don't even think about telling me what to do with it. But I'm also, that is a living being. How can you do that? A 16-week fetus who knows enough to know they're in danger and they want to live. That's all I have to share.
Who's next? Joseph, who's this? There's a microphone right back there.
Oh, there it is. Oh, come on, don't do this.
Just pull it.
Okay, good. I'm going to say back here where I can watch the chat. Keep an eye on it so I won't be in front of the camera. So hopefully everybody can hear me that's on the chat. On the heels of that, my stance on it, I mean, even though I'm not a woman, but from being a male, I know that because what I have, the arthropus I have, that's a birth defect. They don't know if it's genetic or if it's just, roll a d20, see what you get. I believe that being responsible enough is also something that should be taken into consideration. I know that when I get enough money, I'm going to get my tubes tied, mainly because I don't want them to go through what I went through. Not just the physical trauma, but because I also have the psychological and mental trauma that goes along with it, as well as physical trauma. But that's just something that I, as a responsible person, know that I wouldn't want any child to go through that. I've been through it, they don't need to go through it. So that's I guess something to add on to what Mom said, is just knowing how to be responsible.
Who's next? Yes.
Don't put the microphone
Hey,
up.
Joseph.
Okay.
My bad, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi. Before I came to Georgia, I was back in Kansas City area, and I was on the greater conference of Planned Parenthood back there. And each week on Tuesday, I would go to the Planned Parenthood, and when I would arrive, there would be young girls and mothers and perhaps fathers wrapped around the block waiting to get contraceptives. And I was a counselor, and I do see the pros and cons of, life or not. I saw some pretty heartbreaking things. Some families were being torn apart by a young girl having been raped by her father. And some people were, as an example, Catholic, and they were having this dilemma of whether or not to do something because they knew a child inside this woman was terribly, terribly deformed. This was back, in the 1960s, okay? So I'm just saying it does depend on the situation. I'm pro-choice, but I love life, and it's a dilemma for each of us. Thanks for listening.
Yes, you have to have a choice. I'm coming from Colombia, where you see a lot of poor people, and I don't think it's fair that they have to struggle. My example, you probably heard Pablo Escobar, and very likely he ended for the way he was raised. He was a street kid, but never received anything from society. He was a beggar until he grew enough to start stealing. And then, he grew, he made his own money his way. He didn't owe anything to society. Why would he owe anything to society? But should he have been born to live that kind of life? Or should it be better to stop it before he got started in such a terrible path? And that's just one example of many I have seen in my life.
Anyone else? If you're going to speak, try to get on screen, otherwise people are just looking at me and hearing your voice. Which is fun, but,
So one of my concerns is that with this ruling, that there haven't been anything else to go along with the ruling, like more access to birth control, more access to health care. Especially like for college-age students, this is kind of where I'm coming from. Like when you're in college, you may go to school and not have the family who are putting you on birth control, making sure that you're safe, having those conversations with you before you get to college. And, when Mom was talking about how the line was wrapped around Planned Parenthood, so many kids, like even when I went to school, which was in the 90s, and even now, don't have access to birth control. because maybe their parents are, their mom's like, no, 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 you cannot do that because you're not having sex. Well, let's face it, that's happening. So, you know, for me, my struggle is like, okay, yeah, you ban an abortion, which no, it should not be used as birth control, but you haven't done anything else to go along with it to help prevent it in the first place. And so for me, it's such a juxtaposition. You're going to ban this, but you're not going to do anything to prevent it in the first place or help with access to health care for people. So there's my problem.
Anyone else? Think we type anything online?
Not yet.
All right.
I'm gonna just double check by typing and, because chat may be bored. I just realized that.
I feel like an auctioneer. This is your last chance. Going once.
No, hang on, I'm still typing, sorry, I'm just slow.
Well, while you're doing that,
I'll say my two pieces.
Make sure to get on screen.
Yep.
Just, yeah.
I'm not sure what to see.
Alright, so as a male that is not dating, not engaging in sexual activity because that's my choice, I don't really have a strong opinion because I don't think I should be making the choices that work for me for other people. It's difficult to decide when life begins. I mean, I haven't really looked into that. Some people try to make a decision without maybe being informed about should it be the time of fertilization, should it be 6 weeks after that, should it be 16 weeks. It's until it is really important to you and you have to make a decision, some people probably will not. And just like I have never really thought what I would do until the choice is thrust upon me. And because I try to live my life as doing to others and do have them do what to do, I do not want to make choices for other people. I don't want them to make choices for me. So with the choice of allowing abortion or not, I'm not going to make the choice for other people. And it's hard to say because I don't know enough when life begins, whether it's fertilization of the egg, whether the egg itself is enough life, and anyone who does not fertilize their egg and lets it pass through during their period is denying a life. I mean, is it the egg itself that is life? Is it a fertilized egg? Is it 4 weeks after fertilization? Is it 16 weeks? I can make that decision, and it's frustrating when other people make that decision for others, I guess.
Yeah, come on. There's one here as well.
I had a quick follow-up to Nicole's ponderings. She said, she's out of the room now, but she said that it doesn't come with implementation instructions or more support for healthcare for people. It's just a sudden judiciary decision. And this is an overgeneralization for somebody who doesn't follow politics nearly as much as I should to be making a comment like this. So take all the grains of salt you need. But the generalization I've heard from people that this kind of tracks with is that Roe v. Wade was one of the initial culture wars battles that we didn't decide with the legislature or with the executive branch, we decided with the judiciary. And that's Nicole's point, is one of the side effects of that. Like if this were a law that were passed, then the Congress would take a long time deciding exactly what goes in this giant law. And then the executive branch would take a long time deciding how to implement it and what else needs to be changed to live out the law. But then we decide things with these small group of appointed folks that are important cultural issues. The question I want to ask about that, though, is who benefits from the general legislative gridlock and from deciding things in the judiciary versus in the legislature and the executive branch. So it can be more thoughtfully implemented, and who benefits from morality culture wars that we have every time there's a gun issue, and that we have every time legislation related to abortion comes up. And I don't have answers for this, but that's what I get to. It's not an answer to the question we're talking about today. I apologize for taking it a step different, but I mourn with those who mourn.
Okay. The word choice is the important word. I became pregnant with my daughter Suzanne in 1983. I was in college. I was not married. I told my mother that I was pregnant, and the first thing she did was gather all the money she had and put me on a bus to Atlanta for an abortion, because she thought that's how I would survive and how I would have a future. I came to Atlanta, and I went to the Midtown Clinic, and I sat there for my consultation. And the nurse came back after testing me and said, "You are 4 months pregnant, so this is a different kind of abortion you will have to have. You're going to need to come back to us in a week." Well, I knew the moment I had become pregnant, because it was a random act over a summer. So I could not have been 4 months pregnant. But all the way up there on that bus, I kept thinking to myself, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And when God told that woman to tell me that I was 4 months pregnant, when I knew I was probably only a month and a half, I said, that choice has been made. I'm going to be a mother. But I had that choice. I sat there in that clinic with that woman who went over what I was going to go through if I had this abortion. My life could have been totally different. Maybe I would be on Broadway now. I doubt that. Maybe I would be working in a big theater rather than a small community one. Maybe I would be in banking. Who knows where I would have been? Who knows what my life would have turned out to be? But I am a grandmother. I have a beautiful daughter. But it was my choice. And these women now don't have that choice. They're going to have to run to another state to do it if they need to. And that's what it's about.
We got spare.
So we kind of sitting there thinking, should I share or whatever, but I just kind of want to go off what you were saying. I was actually just about to say something similar to that. I'm not going to say names because I'm not sure if this person in my family is comfortable with me sharing this, and they may or may not be watching, so I'm not going to say names. But somebody I'm very close to had an abortion when they were younger. And the angle I'm going to take this at is, one thing that drives me a little crazy is when people take the stance of, oh, you're super irresponsible and you're just trying to bail yourself out, so that's why you go do it, right? And it's easy peasy, just like that, right? These decisions take huge tolls on people, and it does not escape them. So compassion on both sides goes a long way to understanding this. If I get a divorce, right, there's no telling how that affects my life. It could be negative, that stays with me forever. Should we outlaw divorces? And I know that sounds a little bit, that's a lesser situation than what we're talking about here, but remember, when you're talking about principles, right, principles have to apply across the board. You cannot just apply a principle where you want to. So I'm not speaking on either side, but what I am saying is, I think a little empathy both ways goes a long way. Like you opened up this whole sermon, there are completely justifiable reasons for both sides. And I think we need to stop pretending that our side is the only correct side, wherever side you fall on. Regardless of whether you think it's right or not, people do have to pay for these decisions. And so we can't, we can't sit here and let's not punish them more, right? I feel really strongly about not being just so holier than thou, whichever side you're on, because reasoning people understand that, situations are not uniform. And there are various decisions where people are in their life, what happened. So I think, again, just little understanding on both sides goes a long way.
Now hear from Paul.
I'm sitting in the
Closer, Dad.
tire sales office. I bought tires for my wife's car, and she was coming in to meet with me there. So she came in and she informed me that she was pregnant and she wanted to know if I wanted another kid. I said, I guess so. And we paid for the tires and left. I came in a few months later, and I knew the guy at the counter pretty well. And I said, the last time I came in here, my wife told me I was going to have another kid. He said, I wondered what happened to you because I felt like I was charging you too much for those tires when you came in.
Last chance.
Nothing from chat.
Here's my 2 cents, because many of you gave yours. My first thing is, I know that this is something that affects childbearing people a lot more than those of us who don't have or have never had the ability to bear a child. So the ironic thing is, it felt to me like more of us non-childbearing folks spoke just now. I think we would do well for us non-childbearing folks to listen more and speak less. My second thing, forcing someone to do something, really anything, with their body that they don't want to do, feels exceedingly wrong. Me, personally, I think abortion would be a really tough choice. I'm not sure what I'd do if someone was pregnant because of me and we did not plan to be pregnant or want to be pregnant, other than support the person, because they're going to be the main decision maker, because again, not childbearing person. So, I'd like to echo what Jonathan says. I've lived my life in such a manner as to not be in that situation, but that was my choice and I was free to make it. And I know that as a male, that's easier for me. That's just easier for me. Putting my choices, my morals, my religious understandings onto someone else is a form of oppression. And I think that's dangerous. I know there are other people who think differently than me, and as wrong as they are. But when there's a difference of opinion, I think freedom to choose what works for them is what's best for us all. Thank you for participating in what turned out to be a wonderfully calm and helpful discussion.
Oh,
believe in the Holy Ghost, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. Amen.
Please be seated. Let us continue our worship in prayer, first silently and then I'll express with his voice. Let us pray. Almighty God, give us love and grace to deal with each other mercifully. Hear now the words as you taught us as we pray. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory forever. Amen.
Let's continue our worship with the presentations of our tithes and our offerings. Let us be faithful. thanks to the Lord our God.
It is right to give our thanks and praise for the ability to come together and worship the sacred presence of God and the freedom to disagree with people but still love them and be loved by them. We are eternally thankful. Take these gifts and use them so that the spirit of togetherness will overcome any division. Amen.
The hymn is on the screen before you in just a second. May hope be known in your vision. May your words betray your wisdom. May love be your only religion. May you preach it to us all.
Amen.
Okay, great.